So, yeah, so more folks and good to see you all. And this is the February 6th, and this is the Senate Agricultural Committee meeting. And we have the Farm to School folks with us today, and today is Farm to School Awareness Day. And so we'll introduce ourselves and then we'll turn it over to Patsy and get started.
Morning, folks. Brian Collmore, State Senator from the Rutland District.
Irene Renner, Senator for Chittenden North, which includes Fairfax.
Yep, and Brian Campion is one of the members. He's also Chair of Education. And Richie Weston is should be coming along and sits on here plus appropriations. So it would be good to have him this morning with us because sometimes we have to put a little money into things. But we'll get started with you, Betsy, and go from there.
Hi, well, good morning. Thank you. I know some years we benefit from the students bringing some treats that they make. This year, you'll have to have the school lunch in the cafeteria. So at lunch today, they're cooking out of the new school cuisine cookbook. And there's a, Caleb can describe some of the local products in that lunch.
Yep, correct.
For the record, my name is Betsy Rosaluth and I'm the Farm to School Director at Shelburne Farms. And I'm here today as part of the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network with over 300 members, farmers, school staff, teachers, parents, administrators, early childhood providers, businesses from across the state. And it's good to be back for Farm to School Awareness Day. We are asking you this year to support the governor's budget proposal for both the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant Program and the local food incentive with level funded base appropriations of $500,000 each for fiscal year 2025. So that is in the governor's budget proposal
That's
at that level.
that's good news. It's in the budget.
Yes,
And it's level funded.
yes, exactly. And I wanted to thank you for having all of us here today to share the impact that investment in farm to school and early childhood is having here in Vermont with our students, our communities, and our farmers. And as the chair often says, it's a win-win-win for Vermont. So you're going to hear some
Good to see
stories.
you. I apologize. Little snafu in education. Figured out.
Understandable. Thank you. So you'll hear directly from schools about how Farm to School has made a difference, and then please feel free to reach out to any of us with questions. We've hopefully time for some questions today, but always happy to follow up. I just want to make a note that Vermont is recognized nationally for our Farm to School programming that's been going on for 20 years. We were the first state in the US to have a Farm to School Grants Program, and it's the basis of the USDA Farm to School Grants Program, which they recently renamed the Patrick Leahy Farm to School Grant Program. And I think acknowledging the good work we're all doing. And what makes Vermont's program unique, I think, is an integration of food access with local food purchasing and agriculture and food education. And we do this by combining the grant funds to schools with technical assistance and professional development. We provide support to schools through strong partnerships between state agencies, statewide nonprofits, and regional and local organizations. I think you'll get a feel for that today. As you know, the one constant in schools is change. You know, we've had a few last minute cancellations. Our school nutrition director has staff out. He's cooking on the line. The superintendent has a financial meeting on Act 127 that just came up. So there's always shifting sands, but we continue to think about what creates sustainability beyond any one grant with Farm to School. And one of the key components is having a cross-school team as part of the grants program where administrators, teachers, school nutrition, community partners are all planning Farm to School together, and creating more realistic and sustainable plans that last beyond that one champion that we always have who are amazing, but we're trying to embed it in the culture of the school. The local foods incentive and full funding of the grants program is a lever also that provides the financial and technical support to schools to do that integration of Farm to School. And as you know, Vermont passed the local foods incentive so that more of the $20 million that schools are spending on food every year is kept in our economy and goes to our farmers. So you'll hear from the Agency of Education. I think there's an estimate that schools spent over $1.2 million on local food this year. It's a great start, and we know we need to go much further. So the Farm to School and Early Childhood Network goal is 30% local purchasing. So we will continue over time to grow that number and look for, what are the challenges? What else can we do with the supply chain to make that easier to get that food to kids and on the plate?
Does the Universal Meals Program help that or hinder it in any way by the buying of local foods?
Yeah, I believe it helps. We don't have a formal evaluation yet, but it would be great. That's a question we really want to look at. You might have heard from the Agency of Education and Hunger Free Vermont that participation has increased.
Yeah.
Participation of lower income students who are eligible for the federal reimbursement has, helped, yes, gone up. And so being able to focus on local purchasing is really important. So I think that's an excellent question. I'm sorry, our school nutrition director isn't here to respond, but we'll get back to you with their thoughts on that. And also over 100 Vermont farms sell to early childhood and schools. Sometimes it's the CSA share program through the grants program. There's 101 early childhood and after school programs that have participated in the last few years. And so, anywhere from that to what you'll hear today from one of our farmers on, how that food can both get into the food hub distribution network and sometimes directly to schools. I guess I just want to give time to the rest of our speakers. So my final comment would just be Farm to School in Vermont integrates, as we said, food access, which is universal meals, food education and local purchasing, so that while we are providing our children critical nutrition, they're understanding what that food does for their bodies and for their communities, and benefiting our local farmers in the process and building healthy habits and a connection to Vermont foods for a lifetime. So that's another evaluation someday we'll look at. When Vermont kids grow up with Farm to School, I hear lots of stories. They keep that understanding of local food and what that tastes like and the skills to cook it or throw it, whatever it might be. So again, we're looking for your support of the governor's proposal of $500,000 level base funding for both the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants Program and the local food incentive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the figures. You said that our schools spend about 20 million a year on food. 1 million of that is purchased from local folks, and the goal was 30%, which if I'm doing the math right, is we need to get to 6 million.
Right.
Is the trajectory on the way up every year? We're buying more and more from local farmers?
we are doing a project with some folks, evaluation folks this year. He's out, like, there's some data we can get from distributors directly, there's some data we can get. And the 1.2 million comes from the Agency of Education, so they're getting directly from schools. And there's some other ways, so we want to get a better number to really understand the total. So when schools, some are buying directly, some on the main line distributors truck, some through the food hubs. There's a lot of ways. Sometimes they're growing and paying the student farms
Okay,
for
sure.
it.
Yeah.
So we need to get a better picture of exactly what that number is. And maybe some of my colleagues who are speaking later today can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for Betsy? No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Musical chair now.
Alyssa?
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning. So just to start off for myself, I am Alyssa Pratt, for the record, and I'm a student support specialist at Spalding Education Alternatives in Barre, Vermont. We currently serve 7th through 12th grade students, and we are part of the Barre Unified Union School District. We are looking for support for the Farm to School and Early Childhood program, as well as the local food incentive program, with level-based funding appropriation of $500,000, as Betsy mentioned. The Farm to School program, the Farm to School and Early Childhood program is a critical connector, bringing farms and educators together so that children and youth can experience local food, have nutritious meals, and learn about where that food comes from. The reason I'm asking for support for the Farm to School and Early Childhood program, as well as local food incentive, is because of the value they have in connecting youth with farmers and local businesses, and ultimately allowing youth to create relationships within our community, as well as increasing food security. Some things that these students would likely not have the chance to do otherwise. At Spalding Education Alternatives, we have been able to work with local business owners and farms to give students the opportunity to learn about where their food comes from and how to make it. One example of this is previously last year, our students worked with Stefano Coppola. He is the owner of Pearl Street Pizza and Morse Block Deli here in Barre. And they made mozzarella cheese with milk that we had purchased fresh from Buttercup Mountain Farm in Orange. The students made bread from scratch as well. And these items we served along with vegetables from our garden at school during the Farm to School Showcase event that we hosted here on our property in October of 2023. Connecting students with their local community has opened their eyes to possibilities for their futures, and it's creating a sense of belonging. Some of the ways that Farm to School learning has positively impacted our students and our program here are as follows. We have created relationships with Vermont farms such as Honeyfield Pepper Farm in Norwich, Vermont Blueberry Farm in Randolph, Green Mountain Harvest in Waitsfield, Vermont, as well as Keyholm Farm, which is in Barre, off of the Barre Montpelier Road. We are going to be working with them going forward for this year and over the summer to work on aspects of gardening and running a business. So our students are going to have an opportunity to really get their hands in the dirt and help a local farm. Our students have also worked very hard on building our own garden school spaces, soil health, plant health, and cooking with what we've grown here on our property. We have incorporated Food Connect's Harvest of the Month foods in our learning by cooking with them, and have highlighted the local food of the month with projects and also diving further into the ins and outs of that food. We have also been able to take field trips to certain farms around Vermont and learn even more. These budding partnerships allow us to strengthen our own program as well as those local farms we work with. Most recently, we were able to purchase an in-classroom hydroponic unit to extend our growing season, because as we all know, can't grow outside very easily in the winter. And our students are learning science through this process. We dived into seed starting and saving and the possibilities that come from this. Our students have created and will continue to create our garden space built entirely by them, garden beds and all, which allows them to see from beginning to end where their food comes from and how to maintain it. We are able to incorporate science, math, English, and social studies curriculum into all of the above. Our students have greatly benefited from the lessons, hands-on learning, and opportunities Farm to School has brought to them. They have been provided knowledge of local food systems, gardening skills, community engagement, and nutrition that will stay with them for a lifetime. The pride and excitement students exude in my time working with them on Farm to School is also something that will stick with me forever. In my opinion, local farms we have connected with are excited and grateful to aid in the experience and teaching of today's youth. To help us continue this amazing learning, please support the Farm to School and Early Childhood Program and Local Foods Incentive, each with a level funding base appropriation of $500,000 for fiscal year 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions in the community?
Well, just go ahead, make one comment. So I think the fact that you do take the kids to a farm tour is great. I'm wondering, I haven't heard anything about farmers markets yet, and I know that generally speaking, they're on weekends, although there's probably some during the week. But that might be another place to bring the kids to show them a little bit more of a holistic picture of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Keelm Farm that I mentioned, they're in Barre, Vermont. They do Wednesdays. So it is something where it would be more of an after-school program for our students, which is totally something we can do. But they have offered to let us help on their stand. And they're a pretty big seller from what I've seen at the local Montpelier and Barre markets. Down the line, our hope is to also have a school farm stand at the market. So where our students are taking things that we've grown here at our gardens and selling local produce, flowers, and even, like little herb blends was something that they had come up with as an idea. So that's definitely in our sight.
Well, congratulations, you one-upped me. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, any other questions? No,
That's great.
but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jake? Morning.
My name's Tom. Jake actually wasn't able to make
Jake,
it, unfortunately. Yeah.
You're filling?
I work at Food Connect, we're a local food hub, and Jake is a customer of ours. Sorry that he wasn't able to make it. So yeah, as I said, my name is Tom, and I work at Food Connect, a nonprofit that provides farm to school coaching services in southern Vermont and distributes 100% source identified food to more than 80 schools throughout Vermont, New Hampshire, and Western Mass. Thanks 3 times a day. I'm here today to ask that you please support the Farm to School and Early Childhood Program with level funding based appropriation of $500,000 for fiscal year 2025, as well as a local foods incentive grant, or LFI, for schools at $500,000 level funding based appropriation. In my role as institutional sales associate, I have the privilege of overseeing our Vermont public schools. On a weekly basis, I talk with food service professionals like Jake about products that Food Connect Food Hub can deliver to their schools that meet the Vermont definition of local for the LFI. Since the implementation of this grant, sales of Vermont beef have drastically increased. Prior to the LFI, it was really difficult to sell Vermont local proteins to public schools, primarily due to food service budgetary constraints. Now that the schools have a financial incentive to source Vermont products, this barrier to entry has been reduced. In fact, one of the easiest ways for Vermont Public Schools to increase their local purchasing percentage is by sourcing Vermont center of the plate proteins, like ground beef and beef patties. Boyden Farm in Cambridge, Vermont is Food Connect's primary beef supplier. Mark Boyden is a 5th-generation family farm and cares deeply about serving public schools. He says, "The big thing is getting kids to expect local food, and they keep that when they grow up. That's more important than sales." During the school year 2021 to 2022, Food Connect sold approximately $35,000 of Boyden Farm beef to Vermont Public Schools. During the following school year, we sold approximately $48,000, representing a 37% increase year over year. Lastly, during the current school year, we have already sold approximately $50,000, with 5 months still remaining this school year. I'm confident that more Vermont Public Schools will continue to increase their ordering of Vermont beef so that they can meet the local purchasing thresholds for the LFI. A separate program that has proven to support the LFI has been the Local Food for Schools program, or LFS, which is a partnership with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, and 4 Vermont food hubs to provide local food to Vermont schools at no cost. This is a one-time program funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The intention of this program is to create long-term relationships between Vermont Public Schools and food hubs, even after these one-time funds have been used. The LFS funds were made available to schools beginning September 2023. Here are just a few success stories I would like to highlight. Thanks to the LFS program, 4 Vermont food hubs worked together to ensure that every school food authority in the state can receive deliveries from the food hub. The 4 Vermont food hubs are Vermont Farmers Food Center in Rutland, Acorn Food Hub in Middlebury, Greenmount Farm Direct in Newport, and Food Connects in Brattleboro. Together, we are delivering to more than 150 Vermont public schools. More than 60 schools are new customers this school year thanks to the LFS program. Last school year, we collectively sold more than $400,000 of locally and regionally sourced food to Vermont public schools. This year, we have already sold more than $430,000 to Vermont public schools, but still 5 months remaining in this school year. The LFS program was a significant driver for this increase year over year. Colleen French is the Assistant Food Service Director at Champlain Valley Union High School and has been working in food service for 23 years. Her district was assigned to Food Connects as a food hub to use their LFS funds this school year. Here are a few things Colleen had to say about the program. When I learned about the LFS program, I was so excited to partner with Food Connects and offer my students more local food. We had so much fun trying out new items like Vermont cheese curds from 5 Generation Creamery to make routine. I also really appreciate how I can count LFS orders that meet the Vermont local definition towards our local food purchases for the local foods incentive grant. Even though I used up all my LFS funds, I still plan to order from Food Connects going forward. Relationships like the one Food Connects has with Colleen is what the 4 food hubs are working hard to cultivate across the state. In conclusion, by supporting the local food incentive grant, a $500,000 level funding-based appropriation, you will help ensure that our children have access to a diversified range of local and nutritious foods while providing a sustainable market for our Vermont farms. From our farms to our children, the LFI is a win-win. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Interesting numbers and how it's growing well is really good. The first numbers you gave us, could you repeat those?
Yeah. So there are a few stats. I think one was really compelling is last school year. Across all the 4 food hubs, we sold more than $400,000 of locally and regionally sourced food to Vermont public schools. And this year, we have already sold more than $430,000. And still 5 months remaining.
Yeah, very good. Irene?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very impressed with the numbers as they are, but knowing that we had floods that devastated many farms, I'm doubly impressed. Somehow you found food when the farms were saying, and we can't harvest. So congratulations.
Thank you. And I think it's a testament to the growing infrastructure. This past year, a major success across the 4 food hubs is that every school food authority can be reached by at least one of us. 2, 3 years ago, that was not the case at all. And so it's a testament to our infrastructure, more trucks on the road, more places to store product.
And how far south do you go?
So Food Connects covers, we go down to Northampton, Mass. So we cover all of southern Vermont. We go up to Burlington, and the Green Mountain Farm Direct covers the Northern Kingdom. CFFC covers Rutland, Acorn covers Millbury.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good sized area. And that's a weekly delivery thing?
Yeah, we have weekly deliveries to all of our accounts, and then within our kind of existing or close reach in Wyndham County, we get to twice a week.
Yeah, great. And where you guys?
We're in Brattleboro.
In Brattleboro, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Irene.
So again, I'm curious, you're in Northampton, the Pioneer Valley, I thought was a farming hub of its own. Do you just happen to have good connections into Massachusetts, or is it through?
Yeah,
Your
so
distribution network is very efficient compared to what they've got? They've got that up. I'm just curious.
yeah, we have close relationships with Massachusetts Farm to School as well.
Okay,
And just because there's such a rich agriculture community in Pioneer Valley, a lot of our farms we source from are also there too.
I see, okay,
So
so,
there's an incentive for Massachusetts schools to get that product right near them.
okay, so some of that may be creeping into Vermont.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, some of
so
it,
it's so
yes.
reciprocal.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and they, of course, as you go into Mass off like 91, used to be a lot of tobacco farms
Yes.
down through there that switched over to veggies like that. I mean, it's right along, the river, so it's very fertile land. That's good. Yep. Any other questions? No. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I'm not sure Angus, no, I think, Angus is here.
I'm here. I'm just mislabeled.
yeah, you look good, Holly. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
well,
not savvy enough to figure out how to change my name.
Oh,
I
see,
think
it's
we
there.
we've got our technician at work on it. So good morning, Angus.
Good morning. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I had some other obligations that I have to attend to today. So would much prefer to be in the physical realm, but
I don't know if we'd have room for you. We
Nice stuff.
got every chair full and two standing.
yeah, it looks pretty tight in there. So yeah, I'm Angus Baldwin. I'm in Jeffersonville, Vermont. I'm the owner of West Farm, 12-acre mostly wholesale organic vegetable production farm. I've been working with Farm to School since I started West Farm. We've done a lot of school visits. We've done a lot of school sales. So I'm here to request that Farm to School and the local food incentive programs are funded for 2025 for their request. I don't have a ton of kind of prepared remarks. I think I'm somewhat colored in my experience over the last few years. I think the pandemic did a lot to dampen some of the Farm to School movement, just because the physical ability to interact through Farm to School was limited. Hopefully that's recovering. I also have a friend down the road who runs, sorry, I got a phone call, who runs the Sustainable Ag program for the local tech center. In December, their regional advisory board basically canceled the program, and through luck and community support, they have found money in the budget to hopefully continue that program. But I would say that's the preeminent kind of agricultural program in the state. And it's a tremendous farm to school experience for the local schools. So I guess I have this feeling that the farm to school kind of movement is in a bit of a lull, and I just want to reiterate that I feel this is incredibly important. There's a lot of reasons why farm to school is important, not just to farms, but also to the larger community. And without that sort of engagement and understanding between farmers and the community, uh, we continue to kind of push in a direction of a lot of disassociation and ignorance, not just of farms, but what it means to be in a rural community, what it means to have a working landscape, what it means to be connected to nature. And I think it's incredibly important that farm to school continue to exist and should even be, frankly, more funded and imagined as how it could continue to grow and be a long-term stable part of the educational system. From my observation, uh, and having my wife did a stint at our local school as a farm to school coordinator. It isn't it is a temporary kind of position. It is not a necessarily a fully integrated part of the school system. And I think that that's a reflection of kind of where our value system is. And that value system hasn't quite embraced the vital importance of food and food production in our state and in our identity. So I know everybody in that room probably doesn't need to be convinced of this, but I think whatever we're doing is incredibly important, and I would like to see it continue to grow and flourish. So I just like to reiterate, and I'll speak a little bit to the food incentive program. That hasn't changed our relationship with schools too much. I think there's a number of reasons for that, but I have heard that it has definitely increased access for schools to the proteins, as Tom spoke to. I think that's really important. I think producing vegetables is a relatively achievable thing for most people to do, but it doesn't necessarily deal with our larger agricultural landscape that isn't suited to that, or that we don't actually have the market for. So I know that's a big question mark in our future, in terms of how are we going to utilize this landscape in a sustainable way that's benefiting farmers, the community, and in the land base. So I think that program is working, and I definitely am in support of continuing to augment that program and develop it. So just to reiterate, I'd like to see both programs supported. I think they're incredibly valuable, and hopefully continue to grow as time goes forward.
Yeah, well, thank you, Angus. Where did you say you were from?
Jeffersonville.
Yeah, your rep votes against all that stuff, you know.
Yourself.
Yeah, it was disappointing that none of our representatives in the area came out in support of the program.
Well, Richie and I both serve on appropriations, and we watch that pretty close in there when it gets to us, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was a kind of very quick thing. They have a forestry and an ag program, and they're separate campuses, and their regional advisory board decided to combine the two, and at the expense of the Jeffersonville campus. So if it hadn't flooded in December, that program would be done. But the school board meeting was delayed, and there was enough time to rally support from the community that they were willing to reconsider and put it to the voters in March, and we'll see. I don't think it's going to be the most fun school budget approval season ever.
Well, and you're gonna have a little more time to get under some support because I think the school budgets are in trouble with the taxes and so yesterday, I think it was, we talked about and pretty formal that we're gonna push the school budgets back a while to give us a chance to try to figure out that 20% tax increase that none of us can afford. So I think the school budgets are gonna get pushed back a while, so give us a little more time to find some money or find some ways to cut that huge tax increase down.
Yeah, I think everybody's sympathetic to the problem. Even the instructor there has understands that. I mean, I think it just speaks to budgetary constraints are always a real thing, and going forward, how much of a value do we put on agriculture and food systems, and why is that important, and how is that message to the public? And I think that is something that Farm to School is great at doing, and I'd like to see more of it, because I can see where the trajectory of the state is heading, and it's not going to be more viable agriculture the way it's going right now.
Well, thank you. There are questions. No, thank you very much for being with us this morning, and so we'll move on to Kayla.
I have a few students with me as well, so it's kind of a whole package.
Great.
Do you guys want to stand or just say sitting? What would you prefer?
Can you bring your chairs right up?
Yeah, come on up, guys. So my name is Kayla Henry. I am the sustainability teacher at Crescent Brook Middle School in Duxbury, Vermont. I appreciate your support in the Farm to School and Early Childhood Grant Program with what funding phase appropriation of $500,000 for the fiscal year of 2025, along with the same amount of money for the local incentive program. I am hopeful for your support of the Farm to School and Early Education programming because it helps to get every child engaged in their local food system and gives them the opportunity to support their community from a young age. Farm to School education is so important. At the school I work at, I work with every single 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grader, and throughout all 4 years of their middle school experience. So I get to see them 4 times throughout their time period at that school. I have a unique program that uses the old home economics classroom and the kitchen. My program does play a huge role in teaching students the importance of having local, robust food systems and supporting community agriculture. We are able to provide students with the opportunity to learn how to tend to chickens and sell their eggs around the building. We also cook with local foods, grow our own microgreens, learn how to garden, and experience new foods students might not get to experience otherwise. My sustainability program also focuses on the science behind our food. We learn how our pollinators connect to our food system using our on-campus beehives. We also look at the difference between sustainable and factory farming systems and research the impacts each system may have on the environment, animals, and the workers. The sustainability program fosters students who have found their passion for tending to chickens, those who have tried new vegetables, and those who have learned that they can make a salad dressing that tastes better than the store-bought version. One of the best parts of this program is that it reaches students who tend to struggle in traditional classrooms. The hands-on experimental learning that takes place in this classroom gives this space to thrive and learn to be compassionate by caring for living creatures, finding value in the real-world applications. Local food is key to understanding and caring for our community, and I enjoy sharing that with students. The most apparent value to Farm to School education is the practical skill set students gain for life beyond middle school, but there are other benefits that aren't as obvious. We are trying to change the narrative that the value that is added is not just hands-on experience. Furthermore, it is an opportunity for students to experience the positive impacts that farming can provide and shift the perception that doesn't just come from the grocery store. We are trying to change this narrative so that students understand where each ingredient comes from, where it will go when it's composted as well. Last spring, some of my students and I had the privilege of working in partnership with a local Waterbury farmer to raise and actually slaughter the meat birds. This was a student-led choice project. We ended up taking 3 students to participate in butchering 14 chickens and learning the process from start to end. Each of the students had such compassion for the birds, saying thank you for their end of the life, giving them a hug right before they're slaughtering them. It was amazing to see students so connected with how their food was raised, how it's treated, and truly understanding the start to finish system for meat. We could not have made this happen without the support of the farmer, the use of their farm, and the wealth of knowledge to share with these students. In this instance, the Farm to School program truly helps these students to understand the importance of farm-to-table eating and why local sustainable food is beneficial to our environment and our community. I do hope you'll keep in mind these stories as many unique learning experiences that my program has provided for students at Crossing Brook Middle School. And it would be really cool to imagine if the same program could be implemented as well at other schools throughout the state of Vermont with the use of old home economics rooms as well. So again, thank you for the funding for Farm to School and Early Childhood Program and the local food incentive, each with a level funded base appropriation of $500,000 for the fiscal year of 2025. We do hope that we can transform some of these in around Vermont to places where students are better prepared for the future and be at the forefront of educational offerings around food. I appreciate your time today. I'm going to turn it over to 3 of my students who all have something else to say as well.
Wow,
Does anybody want to start?
where would you like to?
Do you want to start? We can go in this order.
Yeah, you want to give us your name and maybe what grade you're in?
I'm Frankie and I'm an 8th grader at Crossing Brook Middle School. And I really enjoy doing the after school program with Junior Iron Chef where we use the local ingredients from farms around us to make meals that are digitally.
Are you in on the salad dressing?
Last year we made a flatbread with some other students and we got the Lively Local Award where we used the most, where we use a lot of the local ingredients.
Yeah, very good, good. Yeah, well, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for allowing us to be heard. I am Catherine Smith. I live in Waterbury and I'm a 5th grader at Crossing Brook Middle School in Duxbury. When I moved here from North Carolina last year, I had never had a sustainability class or really ever had an opportunity to learn what we are learning. When I realized that they had sustainability as a class, I was psyched and ready to learn more about helping the environment. In class, we learned about composting and how to tend to composting worms. At the beginning of class, I have now been digging my fingers in the black gold made by the regulators, and it helps me be calm and feel zen as it switches through my fingers. We feed the food scraps from the kitchen to reduce our food waste and add newspaper to absorb liquids. The composting worm bins are productive and are not smelly. It just smells like fresh dirt. I have had 0 experience with chickens in my life until coming to Crossing Brook. We as 5th graders help take care of the chickens every day. I am not super comfortable with all the chickens, but I really love the Rock, who is a large Australorp rooster. At first, my experience with the chickens made me feel nervous, but the Rock makes me feel welcome. Experiencing the composting of worms and chickens at school has made me more interested in helping the environment thrive and learn more about gardening in the future. This is a great way for kids to be motivated and have hands-on experience to help our planet, starting with Vermont. Now it is one of my 2 favorite classes at CrossFit Rec and brings me so much joy. That is why I believe we should continue to fund Farm to School program. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, well, very well done, and thank you both. Yes. And questions.
And one more
That
too.
was really great. That's one more.
I am Tristan Martin. I live in Waterbury and am a 6th grader at CrossFit Middle School in Duxbury, Vermont. Learning about farming in school is important. In class, we learn how to cook and use local ingredients. Recently, we made beet brownies in class, and they're pretty good. I also thought that brownies had to be simple. I didn't realize beets could be put in brownies. Not only is cooking fun, but it's important that middle school learns how to do it. Supporting local farming allows us to make sure animals are treated right. Local is better. We have made applesauce from local orchards and are currently making French toast using the eggs from our chickens at school. Before this class, I never knew how to take care of chickens. Thank you for your time.
You guys are great.
Yeah, very well done, guys. Maybe a chef someday. Well, it'd be good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Kayla, I just wondered, how many students are in 5 through 8 at CrossFit Brook?
Around 310.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have the only sustainability program in the state?
There is one currently at Montpelier's Main Street, which is Don Taylor, who started one 2 or 3 years ago. But for middle school level, I don't really know anyone else at the moment.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So is there talk about how would it expand? I mean, looks like an incredible model. I share education in the afternoon. Are there talks about sort of taking it and moving it or working with?
Not that I know at the
Nothing,
moment. I think
okay.
it would be a great thing to look forward to in the future, and I would like to support that as well.
Okay.
This was it really came from having a really positive administration who took a chance on it 10 years ago with a previous teacher who really just knew it was important. So yeah.
Congratulations.
It's worked out, sounds like very well.
Yeah, we have quite the footprint at school.
And how often do you meet?
So it's a little bit confusing with our schedule, but I teach 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, and 5th grade class every single day with 4 different curriculums. And kids in 5th and 6th grade have a trimester every single year. And then because of numbers, 7th and 8th graders have for a quarter of the year. So they do take sustainability every single year, just not the whole time, or somewhere between 10 to 13 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
It breaks up the monotony of just school.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I expect to hear good things about the 3 of you as we grow older and wiser, so.
Is this more fun than being in school? Being here? Really? Okay, I think I might someday be back at school.
Yeah, we go to school almost every day anyways. Yeah, well, thanks again. Honor. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, hello.
For the record, I'm Gina Cliffero, she, her pronouns, Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Market. I'm our Farm to Institution Program Manager. I'd like to start by handing out our report, if you wouldn't mind passing that around. So this might look familiar. I handed out a similar report last year. It's just an update. So these are our fiscal year 23 grant numbers. Again, this grant program, the Farm to School Early Childhood Grant Program, is funded by the Rosa McLaughlin Farm to School Act of 2007. So we are nearing on 17 years of this grant program's operation. And over this time, there have been 266 grants awarded to schools, early child care programs, and technical assistance organizations for support. A total of 1.9 million has been awarded, reaching 140 schools and 133 early child care programs. The purpose of the Farm to School program is to improve the health, nutrition, and learning outcomes for students and children, integrate interdisciplinary agricultural education into Vermont classrooms, and connect kids and families with the agricultural community, and strengthen markets for Vermont grown products. At high level, there's one funding stream, $500,000 a year. There are 3 grant programs that we move those funds through. The first is the capacity building grant, which is shown in the green colors in the report. That grant is focused on a team approach. So Betsy was talking earlier about how strong farm to school programs have support from their administration, as Kayla was talking about as well. Administration, educators, students, the community, parents, farmers. So it's based on that team approach. And it's a package of financial assistance and technical assistance to really get programs integrated into the school culture long after the grant ends. That's our flagship funding opportunity. Maximum award is $15,000. This past year, we had 14 schools and early childhood programs that participated in that. The second grant program is the CSA grant program, which is a mini grant that reimburses early child care programs and after school programs to receive a CSA. It's a really exciting program. It's only $1,000 max award, but it has this really strong impact because it's accessible. It's an easy grant to apply for. We're seeing more than half of the folks that received the grant last year, there were 42 grant recipients, were new first-time grant applicants to any agency of agriculture funding opportunity. And we're continuing to try to streamline that process and make it more accessible in the future. But that grant's really exciting because it benefits early child care programs, benefits kids, and it benefits the farmer through a direct revenue source, with the money passing through from the agency to the early child care program, then to the farm in the form of a membership to their CSA participation and committing to a year of purchases, season of purchases. The last grant program is the Vision Grant, and this supports innovative and impactful ideas in farm to school. It's focused on replicable, scalable projects that could have the potential for a statewide impact. Since the increase in funding from FY22 to FY23, of now we are at $500,000 as our base. Previously, it was $200,000. We were able to really grow the Vision Grant program. So this year we had 5 grant recipients for the first time for that grant program, focused on all areas of climate change, water quality improvements, agriculture workforce development initiatives, and student nutrition and health. So lots of exciting work in the Vision Grant, and we're excited to continue to see that program grow. That was the overview I just wanted to offer. I wanted to, save time for others to testify, but the only other kind of point I wanted to make, something that's really exciting about the grants program, is that we're able to continue to evolve the program based on the needs of the educational community. So we've made changes year over year to each program to kind of tailor them to be more hitting on the target. So for example, this year we're increasing the CSA grant award maximum from 1,000 to 1,500 in response to feedback from folks that they wanted to be able to get a double share. We have made some, we're adding agricultural workforce development as a stated priority for the Vision Grant this year, and promoting that program to career technical centers. That's trying to increase our outreach to bring in more folks that are going to be focused on agricultural workforce development into this grant round. And we continue to make improvements to the capacity building grant to provide a more cohesive coaching and assistance network to support schools and early childhood programs, and making those changes happen for the long run. So that's all that I had to prepare here, but.
So how do you get the word out that you have these grants available?
So we have a few outreach methods. Most of them are digital. So we have a weekly email newsletter that goes out to 5,000 folks in the agricultural community, just at the Agency of Agriculture. So that's one place that we put all of our funding opportunities, including these three. We also have, we also promote these on the Farm to School listserv, which is maintained by the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. And then we do various partner outreach. So for example, with the CSA grant, we work with Vermont After School Program to promote it to their networks. We work with early childhood networks to get it out to early childhood communities. And we also work with the Agency of Education to get these announcements out to the educational community that they work with.
And do you ever have money left because of the lack of grantees or?
We haven't yet. No, I think we're seeing that the program at this point is right sized in terms of the budget. And that's good. We're seeing.
Yep, good.
Yeah.
Yep. Questions? No. Well, it's not easy.
Yes, so.
Yeah.
Enjoy the report and let me know if you have any questions about it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna come back in.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, there.
There
Yeah.
you go.
So,
Morning.
hey, before I jump into it, I just want to confirm that you all have time. I'm happy to come back another time if you'd like me, if we're able to run over. I certainly have time in my calendar, but I want to check that before jumping into things.
How about 8 or 9 tonight?
8 or 9 tonight?
That's probably when our stuff's gonna slow down. No, you're on. We're gonna run it through.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good. Well, I'll try to keep things brief here. So for the record, my name is Connor Floyd, Grant Programs Manager on the Child Nutrition Programs team here at the Agency of Education. I'm here to speak specifically to the Local Foods Incentive Grant and report out on some of the findings from this year. I'm going to go through things pretty quickly. I did submit a report to the legislature that goes into more detail, has all the numbers if you wanted to dig into those things. So to start, just a reminder, this is a $500,000 annual appropriation for the grant. The Local Foods Incentive is broken into 2 separate parts. There's the baseline year, which school food authorities may apply to once, and that's much easier to be awarded. It's a few questions. It's a really simple application, with the idea being it provides some fundings to set schools up for success in subsequent years. And then in those subsequent year applications, an SFA must hit at least 15% local purchasing to receive a grant award. Something that is new this year is that independent schools that are participating in the Universal School Meals are eligible to also apply. And we did have one of those newly eligible independent schools apply this year for a baseline year grant. I did want to highlight some things that the Agency of Education has done to support grantees. So we have developed some tracking templates. We set up a system for using the accounting codes that schools typically use so that tracking can be easily integrated into their systems that already exist, trying to make that part of the grant a little bit easier. Additionally, for that subsequent year grant application, we just combined it into our financial report, which is an already existing annual report, so that we didn't want to create a new application for schools. The goal is that applying should be really easy. Of course, the hard work is buying the food and maintaining all of that different documentation that's needed. Additionally, we did receive a one-time $600,000 grant from the United States Department of Agriculture. And we used that $600,000 to enter into 3 separate contracts with different farm-to-school organizations, Vermont Feed, Shelburne Farms, and Food Connects, to support various different aspects of the local foods incentive. One thing that I do want to highlight is the contract with Food Connects, which you heard from Tom earlier today, to increase their sales capacity and also pilot bringing a Vermont local apple cider product to schools. Tom's working hard on that. We are running into some barriers right now because USDA requires that cider products be pasteurized, whereas it's common in Vermont to see UV treated apple cider products. We're pursuing a potential waiver with USDA, working with Tom and some potential vendors there. But that is something that we're excited to see moving forward. So looking at this year, there are some trends that I did want to highlight. So we had 6 successful school food authorities receive the subsequent year grant. That means they hit at least 15%. And we did see a general trend amongst those 6 school food authorities, being that they are generally self-operated programs. They have a low free and reduced eligibility percentage, and we saw fairly significant general fund transfers to them. What that means, self-operated is in contrast to programs that are run by a food service management company, which is typically a for-profit business that's coming in and essentially doing all the day-to-day work for the school food authority. So in contrast, what we saw, 5 of the 6 school food authorities had their own in-house program. So all staff were supervisory union employees. The school district essentially took full ownership of that program. One of the school food authorities did have a mixed program where one of their schools was run by a food service management company, but all of the other schools within that school district were self-operated. Looking at the free and reduced percentage, all but one, once again, had an average free and reduced percentage rate that was below the state average of, I believe, 35%. So 5 of the 6 had a lower average free and reduced eligibility rate compared to that state average. And then finally, that those general fund transfers. What that means is that there's a restricted account where all revenue for school food operation goes into, and then that's the account that you're using to pay for food and labor and all of those different things. Generally, that can be a self-sufficient account, right? So the reimbursements schools receive for meals just pays for all of those expenses, but there is the option for school districts to invest additional money into their program by making a general fund transfer of local funds to help bolster that program. And again, 5 of the 6 school food authorities that were successful in applying for the subsequent year saw a general fund transfer of at least $180,000, which just shows that the districts currently that are being successful with this program are districts that are really serious about local purchasing, their school food program in general, and are willing to invest local money to see that success. 2 other trends I want to highlight. One is that beef is always a hot topic. You heard again from Tom about how they are increasing beef sales. If you talk to any food service director trying to hit 15%, it often comes to how they're getting more local protein to the center of the tray. Something that this committee could think about is any actions that could be taken to either increase the supply of local Vermont beef, as well as the capacity for in-state slaughtering, as that would both help schools. I do think that, at least from what I hear from food service directors, that is one potential bottleneck in the system. And then finally, the other thing I wanted to highlight is that if you do look at the report, you'll see a clustering of school food authorities around the 10% threshold. And so within 2 percentage points of 10%, I think we're seeing about 8 or so school food authorities. And to me, looking at the numbers, what that just tells me is that that may be kind of the natural point where when a school gets serious about local purchasing and they're shifting to intentionally buying more Vermont local, around 10% might be where it gets all the low-hanging fruit has been picked, right? And it becomes more challenging to get beyond that. So with that being said, overall, looking from year on year, there has been a steady decrease in the amount of grant funding that has been requested, but that's it almost entirely because the number of baseline year applicants is dwindling, right? So as schools grab that initial easy money, they don't become eligible for it again. And not all of the schools that apply for the baseline year then go on to successfully apply for the subsequent year grant. When only looking at requests for grant funding from subsequent year grantees, we are seeing that increase. And so I do believe that that kind of downward trend is going to turn around as more schools are able to transition to hitting that 15% threshold. And so I do believe that we're going to see in the next couple of years that grant funding increase. Finally, I did want to just address some comments that were made earlier. So it was highlighted that $1.2 million in local purchases were made this past year. Just want to point out that that's only accounting for the 20 school food authorities that applied for the subsequent year grant. And so those 20 school food authorities only represent about 30% of all of the school food authorities in the state. And so certainly it's more than $1.2 million in local purchases being made. We don't know that exact number. Presumably the schools that are making the most local purchasing, we do have those numbers for because they are reporting it. But that is not a comprehensive measure of the local purchases made in the state. And then I also wanted to highlight that one way to think about if local purchasing is increasing is looking at the school food authorities that applied last year to the local food incentive and this year, right? That's the only group that we have year-on-year data for right now, since we are in the second year of when schools could apply for that subsequent year grant. And so we had 13 school food authorities that applied in both years. And we have seen a 31% increase year on year just within that 13 school district cohort. So they went from purchasing about $730,000 of local food last year when applying for the local foods incentive. And those same 13 school food authorities purchased about $960,000 in local food this year when applying for the grant. So we are seeing that increase. I do think we're seeing some of that behavior change taking place as a result of the grant. And I'll leave my comments there. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Connor. You mentioned growing of local beef and slaughtering. Over the past few years, we've put a lot of money into helping slaughter facilities upgrade and put out more production, and hopefully, as our dairy farmers leave the dairy industry, they'll go to raising beef on that land, and so be all grass-fed beef, and so hopefully we'll have more of that as we increase the eating habits of our young people and get some good locally grown beef into them. Their questions. So that it's an interesting statistic that 1.2 million that we have a record of only represents 30%. Yeah, 30%. So if you wanted to play with the numbers, that could get up to 3-4 million real quick. No questions or comments. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you for your time.
I think we have one more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, and sorry we're over.
Well, we started like 2.
Keep looking at me.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And for the record, my name is Kayla Strong. I'm a resident of Vermont and the Farm to School coordinator at the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont. I'm here today to ask that you please support the Farm to School and Early Childhood Program with level funding base appropriations of $500,000 for fiscal year 2025 and also the local foods incentive program at $500,000 level funded base appropriations. I submitted some written testimony this morning. I'm going to jump around a little bit just to not take up too much time. So you've heard about the local foods incentive a bit today from Tom and Connor. And I just wanted to highlight that we're only 3 years into the local foods incentive. And I think it's a helpful reminder that systems-wide changes take time. Vermont food service directors are adapting their local purchasing. They're bringing on new producers and vendors, and they're adopting recipes and training staff today for their grant application next December. So when you look at the data outlined in the AOE's legislative report that Connor was just mentioning, we're actually looking at purchasing data from the school year 2022, 2023. And a lot of those purchasing decisions and menu planning actually took place in the school year before that. So far, as Connor mentioned, we've seen 6 SFAs already reach the local purchasing targets of 15, 20, and over 25% local purchasing. And these SFAs are known for engaging the 3 C's of farm to school, and they've long invested in school purchasing. So we're really excited to see that 14 additional SFAs applied for subsequent year grants, regardless of getting to that 15% threshold yet. This really underscores their commitment to tracking and increasing their local procurement over time. An example I'd like to share and acknowledge is Scott Fay, the food service director at Essex Westford. In the AOE's legislative report, you'll see that Essex Westford percentage increased from 2% local purchasing in school year 2021-2022 to 11% in school year 2022-2023. This huge increase in local purchasing was directly incentivized by the creation of the local foods incentive and their district really investing in farm to school. Scott has made huge strides in this program, including buying Vermont beef for his entire district and purchasing equipment to make processing easier and training staff. When talking with Scott, he's so determined and confident that Essex Westford will reach higher local purchasing targets in years to come. Let's see, I'm going to skip around a little bit. So the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network has been working really hard to capture what's working well in cafeterias that are engaged in farm to school, so we can support all Vermont SFA's ability to increase their local purchasing by sharing a lot of best practices. So we've seen local beef come up again and again as an important product that schools could buy to help meet their procurement goals. And one resource that the network is working on right now is a resource about how to incorporate local beef into a school meal program with tips with leveraging other funding opportunities, procurement and budgeting tips, and also some menuing resources. So Vermont school meals spend about $20 million on food, and that's a huge market opportunity for Vermont farmers. We know when we spend $1 on local food, we circulate $1.60 back into the local economy. And so, as you mentioned earlier, using those current numbers as an example, when we do reach our goal of 30% local purchasing, that would mean $6 million spent on local food for schools, which would actually circulate $9.6 million back into our local economy. In the AOE's legislative report, as Connor mentioned, I also want to highlight that although we only have 1.2 million, that is only representative of the 30% of SFAs that applied. And so while we have a lot of work to get there, these programs are really helping us carve a path. So today you've heard many of the good things happening because of our investments the legislature has made in farm to school and early childhood programs. The Agency of Agriculture's Farm to School and Early Childhood Grants program is a big part of this. It offers financial support, expert advice, and coaching to schools, helping them create long-lasting farm to school programs. The local foods incentive grant program is already changing how school nutrition programs buy food, putting more money back into the pockets of Vermont farmers and producers. So as a reminder, we've come here today to ask you to please support the Farm to School and Early Childhood Program with level funding base appropriations of $500,000 for fiscal year 2025, and to please support the local foods incentive program at $500,000 level funding base appropriations. So thank you for letting us all come speak today, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah. Well, thank you for comments. I gathered that there's one of the grant programs. I think Connor mentioned that once you've applied and received that, then you can't reapply for a certain given
So
period of time or?
yeah, the local foods incentive has two grant tiers kind of. There's a baseline year grant, which is basically the first opportunity any SFA can apply. They're just basically it's an easy on-ramp. So they apply, they say that they're going to, you know, work on increasing their local purchasing. They make a purchasing plan, so they kind of try to strategize a little bit about how they're going to get to 15%. And that's the first year only that SFA applies, they can get that pot of money. In that year, they don't have to be tracking their local, they actually don't have to be at 15% yet. And so any year after that they apply is called a subsequent year grant. And so that's where we see those 6 SFAs that have already reached those purchasing targets.
So if a farm is producing beef, is it up to them to contact one of these organizations that are tied into this program, or is there active solicitation of, hey, I heard you raise beef?
Yeah, so we've been reaching out to farms. It's kind of a interesting conversation. This resource that Connor and I have actually been working on, it's this like one pager for schools about buying local beef. We were considering listing all of the beef farms in Vermont, but direct purchasing relationships are so case by case, so it's hard to kind of like give a hypothetical, like, I'm a school, would you sell to me? So there's a lot of really great direct purchasing relations happening, but also, I mean, that's where food hubs come in, and they're, you know, such a key player in moving a lot of product around us.
Yes, and then get it distributed out every week and.
Yeah, exactly.
But it sounded like you work with Boyden Systems?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know they're into beef, but they.
Yeah, and I know that like Green Mountain Farm Direct carries Smith Family Farm up in the Northeast Kingdom, so I think, I'm actually not positive of who Acorn carries, but we're, you know, trying to make sure that the food hubs also have local beef as a product they don't carry.
Any problem?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And maybe this is for Betsy, whoever. Is there ever a problem with storage at schools?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it would seem like if you get a week's worth of produce and you don't have room to store it all, it goes bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are state and federal equipment grants. And so one of the resources that we point towards schools, especially if they're trying to buy a product like beef, is applying for an equipment grant for, say, something like a large walk-in cooler or freezer storage, using kind of leveraging the different funding opportunities that these SFAs that have reached local purchasing targets have been really strategic in how they're getting grants and how they're getting their storage capacity met. So we're just trying to like glean all of the really good information from those SFAs that are kind of farther ahead and share the rest of those.
Any other questions? No? Any questions from you folks that you'd like to ask us?
Just thank you for your time today and with all the speakers, and please enjoy a school lunch for lunch in the cafeteria. And we will try to invite you to some of the local activities. This year, we're having regional gatherings in different parts of the state. There's an early childhood conference in Bennington at Hillbeam. There's an Edison County event coming up, and 4 other ones within the next year. There'll be one in the Northeast Kingdom, Wyndham. So we'll try to invite you so you can see things in action.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I just want to thank all of you for your time and all the hard work you're all doing. Thank the children for coming this morning, and you did very well. You should be proud of yourselves. And I don't know if you made it onto the Zoom screen, but hopefully when you were testifying, and so we'll end our meeting with you and move on to growing animals.
Also, if you do get lunch in the cafeteria, it is sloppy joes with Boyden beef and mac and cheese with Cabot and Miller Farm milk and carrots from Full Moon Farm. So there's a lot of local products.
Great, thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.
Are you guys looking at it?
I'm just gonna run to the back.
Are they out today?
Yeah. Some online.
Yeah, I get,